Let's break off our engagement. I'm marrying her instead. What? That's the way it is, sorry about that. The one laughing triumphantly next to him is my half-sister. Several months have passed since that shocking event. Just as the wound from the broken engagement began to fade and I started to move forward, I saw my sister again on my way home from work. Huh? Why are you here? I tried to hurry past without her noticing, but she said, "Found you. I've been looking for you." She seemed angry, but I had no idea why I should be the one being scolded. If anything, I should be the one who's mad. What do you want? I've got nothing to say to you. What the hell is going on? You've been lying to me, haven't you? Huh? What on earth are you talking about? I'm a saleswoman and I just turned 30. A year ago, I started dating a man named Michael and he proposed to me a month ago. We were engaged, but that was called off today. As someone who wants to get married and have kids like me, having the engagement broken off just before turned 30 is nothing short of a disaster. After breaking up with Michael, I headed straight to my family home where my mother was waiting. Of course, the fact that my engagement was off, and the reason why, was too cruel to bear alone, so I called my mom immediately. She quickly said, "I'm at home right now, so come over." "Where are you? Should I come and get you?" Even though I was dumped by my fiancé, there were people who cared for me. Just feeling that lightened my heart a little. I told her I could get home myself and, with my mind blank, I got on the train and headed for my family home. When I arrived, my mother was waiting for me at the front door and said, "Welcome home." I'm home. As I said that, the tears I had been holding back came pouring out like a waterfall. Without asking what had happened, my mother silently waited for my tears to calm down. Then, when my tears had subsided a bit, I started to tell my mother about what had happened that day. I was supposed to meet Michael today, but when I got to the meeting place, Becky was there too. What? It's not surprising that my mother was shocked. Becky is my half-sister. Although she's my half-sister, we can't exactly say we get along well. We've had a complicated relationship since forever. I had never introduced Michael to her, so I had no idea why Becky and Michael were together. But the unexpected pair had more shocking news. "Harper, there's something I have to tell you today. I want to break off our engagement." What? Of course, I couldn't accept it right away. Things had been going well with Michael recently. We had even taken a short trip last week and discussed our wedding rings. There had been no signs that he was going to break up with me. Why? Can you tell me why? I had a bad feeling when I saw Becky next to him. That's because Becky has always tried to steal my boyfriends and friends in the past. But after growing up, none of this happened, and I honestly thought it wouldn't happen anymore. I wanted to believe so. But Michael's reply was, "I've fallen in love with someone. I intend to marry her." That's what he said. And when I saw him looking at Becky so adoringly, I felt dizzy. Becky looked at me triumphantly and said, "That's the way it is." Sorry about that. Michael may not know about my relationship with Becky. Even so, I couldn't believe this was a coincidence. I was certain that Becky had planned this, to break off my engagement. But even knowing that, there's nothing I can do now. If Michael has fallen in love with Becky, no matter how much I try to convince him otherwise, it will just sound like I'm a sore loser. I should be angrier at having the person I promised to marry taken from me. Maybe I should be clinging more, saying I don't want to break up. But I couldn't do that. I felt that if I did, I would feel even more miserable. "I understand, it's okay now." I said just that in a small voice, and turned my back on them. Then I called my mom, and that brings us to now. After hearing everything, my mom paused a bit, and then in a kind voice said, "You must have been through a lot, cry all you want until you feel okay." Yeah, thanks. I'm really glad to have my mom. It's going to be tough for a while, but I'll surely be able to think positively. That's when my mom shocked me with her words. "But, you know, it's a good thing. Even if you had married your fiancé, I don't think you would have been happy. That's what I believe. I was taken aback by the unexpected statement. What? What do you mean? Then my mom smiled softly and said, because he's a man who could easily discard a wonderful woman like you. Also, I don't think things will go well between those two. Happiness built on hurting others so ruthlessly is fragile. There's something else that's been on my mind. I don't have proof, so I can't say it now. But I'm sure you'll understand soon, Harper. Don't worry, you're going to be happy. I was really curious about what my mom wanted to say, but I don't have the energy to think deeply now, and strangely I could trust my mom's words. So that day, I didn't pursue it any further and decided to go back to my own house because I had work the next day. On my way home, I was absent-mindedly thinking about the past. My parents divorced when I was 3 years old. My dad had an affair and left us. My mom has raised me by herself ever since. And the woman he had an affair with was Becky's mother. I have no intention of denying Becky's existence. But considering Becky is 2 years younger than me, it's easy to see how despicable my father's actions were. As an adult, I feel this more deeply. Even so, my father, as he is, seemed to care a bit about me, his daughter. He always sent me a gift for my birthday, and would take me out for meals a few times a year. When I was young and didn't even understand the meaning of the word affair, I purely loved my father who would come to see me. And my mom never said anything against that. I first met Becky when I was in the 3rd grade. Normally, I would dine with my dad, just the two of us, but this was the first time he brought along Becky. I was still a child back then, so I didn't care who Becky was or anything about her. I was just thrilled to be able to play with a girl slightly younger than me. Of course, Becky was just a kid at that time too. Regardless of our respective statuses and relationships, I remember playing well together. Looking back now, I wonder what was going on in my dad's head to make us meet. During elementary school, days passed where I would occasionally meet my dad and Becky, and we would eat together. But as I entered middle school and became busier with club activities and tutoring, naturally the times I saw my dad decreased. By the time I was in the 8th grade, even the messages from my dad ceased. By then, I knew without needing the specifics that my parents had divorced and my dad had a new family. Understanding that fact, I didn't think about contacting him. I can't say that I didn't feel lonely, but I thought that my mom must have been feeling this way even before me. But one day, when I was in the 9th grade, Becky enrolled in our school as a new student. I had no idea where she lived, so I never thought she'd end up at the same middle school. When I saw her, it felt like I was reuniting with an old friend, so I called out to her. "Becky, long time no see." Since elementary school, Becky had always been the girl with soft, white hair, big eyes, and long eyelashes. She was the epitome of the kind of beautiful girl that other girls admired, but in middle school, she had become even more stunning. Indeed, she was so noticeable among the new students that she became a hot topic in my grade. When I called out to her, Becky stared at me with her large eyes and said, "Who are you?" I could tell it was her right away, but had she forgotten me? Considering how young she was when we used to play together, it was understandable. Given the complicated nature of our relationship, I hesitated to explain. Although I was disappointed that we couldn't have a proper conversation, I opened my mouth, deciding to pretend it was a case of mistaken identity. Then, Becky said, "Oh, you're the poor girl who got dumped by my dad." Huh? Even Becky's friends who were with her were taken aback and asked her to repeat. "Apparently, my dad was deceived by a terrible woman when he was young. He couldn't bear it, divorced her, and then married my mom. Do you need something? You're scaring me." With that, Becky started to act afraid of me. "What? What do you mean, terrible woman? Your dad is the terrible one, isn't he?" I couldn't help but retort. But this was just so typical of Becky. No matter how much I tried to explain myself, the atmosphere had entirely shifted in Becky's favor. "You're a scary senior." If you continue to bully Becky, we'll report you to the student guidance counselor. That's what one of Becky's friends told me. No, I didn't mean it like that. Regardless of what I said, I was not believed and ended up being gossiped about in school as the senior who bullied the cute junior out of jealousy. We used to play together so well when we were kids. I couldn't fathom why Becky acted the way she did, and it broke my heart. I was even dumped by my boyfriend, who accused me of bullying a junior, something he said he hadn't expected from me. To add insult to injury, a few months later, he was dating Becky. This happened twice. I understand that in a small middle school community, it's not unheard of to date the same person. But for it to happen twice? That was beyond mere coincidence. I tried confronting Becky about it, but it only backfired with further accusations of me being a bully. Moreover, these false rumors about me never cleared up until graduation. I finally gave up on understanding Becky and chose to attend a high school where no one from my middle school was enrolled. No one knew about the rumors, and there was no Becky, so I wasn't worried about any further gossip. I was at peace with my high school life, but in the spring of my junior year, I was in for the worst surprise. Becky had enrolled in the same high school. And she was also a manager of the soccer club, just like me. As soon as Becky saw me, she said, "Oh, Harper is here too, nice to see you." This time, she was acting like a sweet junior. This is the same girl who gave me a hard time back in middle school. I just couldn't keep up with her dramatic transformation, and I didn't even feel like building a good relationship as senior and junior. I had no intention of being mean, but I was scared because I had no idea what Becky was planning behind her smiles. My bad hunch proved right. "Harper, why are you so cold to me? Did I do something wrong? I'm upset." Becky accused me of this while crying in front of the whole soccer team. What? I didn't think I had been that harsh, and if anyone had been mean, it was always her towards me. Becky was playing the victim and trying to demean me. She did it again. I thought to myself, but it was too late. All the team members adored Becky, who was cute, cheerful, and considerate. I thought I had established a good relationship of trust as a manager, but in this situation, no matter how much I struggled, I was the bad guy. I ended up being warned by the school administration for bullying my junior, and my position in the soccer team also suffered. I was perfectly labeled as a mean senior who bullied her junior. Back then, I had a crush on the soccer team captain of my grade. I had been quietly nurturing this feeling for over 2 years, and although it may sound presumptuous, I think we had been getting along well, going out on our days off and such. But with this rumor spreading, I was obviously kept at a distance. And when summer vacation ended, he was dating Becky, and I thought it was a nightmare. Why is Becky so against me? I have nothing to say if all of this is said to be a coincidence. But have I done something to Becky that she has to bother me even at school club activities? If the one who took away my father was resentful, I would understand, but Becky has both parents and should be living happily. No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't understand Becky's thoughts. I ended my high school life in the worst possible way and decided to study abroad in hopes of escaping Becky's pursuit. Becky didn't follow me that far. Even after finishing my study abroad and living in Japan, Becky didn't show up for a while. After graduating from high school, I didn't know what Becky was doing or where she was. I was trying to forget the nightmares of my student days and the source of them, Becky, and was trying to get married and be happy. I didn't expect to be messed with by Becky again here. Is it a twist of fate, or is Becky planning something again? I don't know, but I definitely don't want to live my life in fear of Becky. I was sure of that. From then on, I took on more work than usual to avoid unnecessary thoughts. Unlike love, the more you work, the more results you get. I was recognized by my boss for my good work, and these successful experiences gradually healed my heart. My mom was right. As long as I don't give up, I can live positively. Just when I thought so, a few months after the breakup with Michael, when I finished my work and arrived at the station to go home, I saw a surprising sight. "Becky?" I saw Becky standing in front of a sculpture near the station. She seemed to be waiting for someone. I wondered if she might be meeting up with Michael. Regardless, I absolutely could not let myself bump into Becky. Although I don't currently have a boyfriend or anyone I'm fond of, you never know what else she might take from me. Making sure she didn't notice me, I swiftly made my way to the ticket gates. But then, I heard a voice exclaim, "Found you. I was looking for you." And the next thing I knew, my arm was firmly grasped. I could see anger in her eyes, but I couldn't understand why I should be the one she's mad at. Rather, I'm the one who should be mad. "What do you want?" "I don't have anything to talk about," I told her, shaking off Becky's hand. But she grabbed my wrist again, forcefully, and dragged me to the side of the ticket gate. Just how selfish and pushy can this woman be? With a feeling somewhere between shock and exasperation, I quietly followed her. When we finally reached a less crowded spot, Becky angrily spat out, "What's the meaning of all this? You've been deceiving me, haven't you?" "What are you talking about?" I retorted instantly, as I had no clue what she was talking about. "Don't play dumb with me, it's about Michael, obviously." "Huh. I'm the one who was hurt the most when it comes to Michael. There's no reason for her to yell at me." And then, Becky uttered words I couldn't believe. "Michael took $20,000 from me. You must have conspired with him, didn't you?" "What? What are you talking about?" Seeing my genuine surprise, Becky sank to the ground, out of energy. "So you're saying you didn't know? Michael said he needed $20,000 for his sick mom's operation, so I lent him the money. But the day after I gave him the money, I couldn't get in touch with him. His house was empty. I thought you used Michael to get back at me for taking all the men away from you, but is that really not the case?" If what she said is true, did Michael commit marriage fraud? I can't believe the person I was engaged to turned out to be a fraud. The thought of it sends chills down my spine. I really didn't know. Sure, Michael said the same thing to me, but I didn't have that kind of savings, and I said I couldn't ask my mom for it either, so he immediately broke off our engagement. I don't know how you two met, but perhaps when he realized he couldn't get money from me, he switched his target to you. I was surprised at myself for being able to talk about Michael, who I was heartbroken over, as if it was someone else's business. But Becky, of course, wasn't in a place to think about that. "I was irritated when I saw you coming out of a jewelry store, looking happy with a guy. That's why I stole him to get back at you, but I never thought it would turn out like this." I finally heard Becky's true feelings. As I suspected, she had intentionally stolen my boyfriends, the men I loved, and even my fiancé. I said to Becky, exasperated, "You're beautiful and have a bright, captivating charm. But because you've only wished for my misfortune and acted thoughtlessly, haven't you brought this unnecessary disaster upon yourself? If you hadn't interfered this time, I might have been the one hurt. You've made your own life difficult." Then Becky cut off my words, yelling in anger, "Shut up! Don't you dare lecture me! If it weren't for you, Dad would have been all mine. That's what I didn't like. Mom and Dad were always fighting over child support for you, and every time Dad visited you, Mom cried. I hated you." This was the first time I heard Becky's true feelings. I, who was left alone with my mother, did feel the absence of my father from time to time, but I never had to witness their fights or experience any heart-wrenching feelings. Of course, I think my mom felt sad in ways I couldn't see. But I was raised happy as her daughter. On the other hand, Becky, who appeared to have a happy family with both parents, was dealing with struggles unknown to others. That's not to say I think it's okay for her to harass me, not at all. Hearing Becky's true feelings for the first time, a part of me couldn't help but feel sympathy. "I've lent out all my savings and even gotten into debt. I quit my job to get married. What am I supposed to do now?" Becky lamented. It's her own fault she got caught up in this marriage fraud while trying to harass me. Honestly, I can't help but think she brought this upon herself. But after hearing what she just said, I couldn't just stand by and do nothing. I can't help you with money. But I can at least help you find a job, I offered. Huh? She probably didn't expect me to throw her a lifeline. She looked at me in surprise. Someone at my company just left their receptionist job. They're looking for a replacement. Of course, I won't forgive you if you try to harass me again. But if you've learned your lesson, I'll help as much as I can. Even I thought I was being too lenient. But we are sisters after all. Seeing Becky so broken and crying, I couldn't just ignore her. I am sorry. I'm really sorry. Becky cried, sobbing uncontrollably. She must have been overwhelmed with regret for everything. From then on, Becky really did start working as a receptionist at my company. Even after all that harassment, and despite thinking I never wanted to have anything to do with her again. I can't believe I was stupid enough to invite her to work at the company where I work. As expected, Becky became popular in the company due to her vibrant appearance and innate brightness. But she's finally learned her lesson and doesn't harass me anymore. She looks a little embarrassed whenever I pass by, but she doesn't spread nasty rumors or speak in a fake voice. Honestly, I'm relieved. By the way, it seems that my mom once overheard a suspicious phone call from Michael when we were engaged. But she didn't have any evidence, so she was debating on what to say to me when the engagement was broken off. While the situation isn't what we imagined, in the end, my mom, Becky, and I are living our lives positively in unexpected ways. Whatever hardships may come in the future, I'll remember my mom's words. No matter what, I'll be happy. I'll be fine. I'll chant in my heart.